Hello class, this is Math Fractions Lesson 5, and today we're going to be talking about mixed numbers and improper fractions. So far we've just talked about proper fractions where the top number is smaller, and today that's going to change. All right, so let's start with this. Mixed fractions, proper. Perfect. All right, I'm going to start off with a video, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Fractions are usually less than one whole. These are called proper fractions. The numerator is smaller than the denominator. For example, 2/8 of a pizza or half of a sandwich. But fractions can be bigger than one whole. For example, here we have 3 halves of an orange. 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves. You can see that 3 halves is larger than one whole because we have 1 whole orange and an extra half. 3 halves is an improper fraction. Improper fractions have a numerator larger than their denominator. An improper fraction can also be expressed as a mixed number. It's called a mixed number because it's a mix of a whole number and a fraction. How many wholes do we have? 1. How many extra halves do we have? 1. 1 whole and 1 half. The mixed number is 1 1/2. 1 1/2 is the same as 3 halves. Let's take a look at another example. What fraction have these pizzas been cut into? That's right, quarters. Let's count how many quarters we have. 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters, 6 quarters, 7 quarters, 8 quarters, 9 quarters. We have 9 quarters. This is an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. Let's think about how we could write this as a mixed number. How many wholes are there? 2. How many extra quarters are there left? 1. The mixed number is 2 1/4. 2 1/4 is the same as 9 quarters. Here's another improper fraction. Let's convert this improper fraction to a mixed number. We are working with eighths. Our fraction has 10 of them. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 8/8. 8/8 is 1 whole. 9/8, 10/8. There is 1 whole and 2/8. The mixed number is 1 2/8.
All right, so I'm going to stop the video there. So this sandwich has 11 quarter sandwiches. So each squared part, big square part here, equals 1 sandwich. So how many sandwiches are there that are complete? There are 2 whole sandwiches, and there's 1 part sandwich. So there's a fraction of a sandwich here. So this sandwich has 11 quarters. So do you see how each sandwich is separated into 4 parts, fourths or quarters? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is 11 fourth sandwiches. So this is an improper fraction because the top number is bigger. And when we write proper fractions, the number is not bigger. So that makes 2 whole sandwiches and 3 quarters of another sandwich. You can use whole numbers and fractions to name amounts greater than 1. So when we talked about fractions before, we only talked about it being a fraction of 1 whole. This time we can actually talk about more than 1 number in fractions. So when the red trapezoid is 1 whole, the green triangle, so each part of it equals 1/3 of a whole. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, which is 1 whole. So 8 green triangles are 8/3. So remember that when there's one whole trapezoid here, it equals 3 parts of green. So 8 green triangles are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/3 of one whole, what one whole would be compared to. Or you could write 2 and 2/3. So here's how I write 2 and 2/3. 2, 2/3. And this is called a mixed number. So when you have wholes and a proper fraction together. 2 and 2/3 is a mixed number. All right, so we're actually going to start with pi today, and we're going to be working with improper fractions and mixed numbers. So these here are what you would see when you're writing a mixed number, which is the whole mixed with the proper fraction. And then the improper is the version where you have all the parts on the top, which is bigger than the fraction. You'll see what I mean. All right, so do we see I have 2 whole pies? So the big number would go here. How many holes do we have? And then we have 2/3 of the third pie. So 2 and 2/3. This one is 3 whole pies and 3/4 or 3/4 of the fourth pie. 3 and 3/4. This one is 2 whole pies and 1/4 of the third pie. So these numbers right here, as we talked about, are the mixed numbers. And if we want to write it as an improper fraction, this is how we would do it. So first of all, we have to talk about how many parts are there in one whole. Here we can tell there are 3 in these pies. So they're thirds. They're separated into thirds. Then what we have to do is we have to add the 3/3 from each pie. So 3, 6 plus 2, 7, 8. 3 plus 3. So this is one whole, and then 2/3. So 3, 6, 7, 8. It would be 8 out of 3. So this is an improper fraction. It's the same as 2 and 2/3, but if you want to write it just as an improper fraction, this is what it would look like. All right, the next one, do you see how this pie is separated into quarters? So when we look at these pies as fractions, we have to think about them as all being quarters, okay? So we put the number of how many parts there are in one whole on the bottom, which is the denominator. And then we have to add 4 plus 4 plus 4. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus the 3 parts. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 3, 15. So 15/4. All right. So the third one, these are also separated into quarters, and we can tell by the size of the broken one already. So we can go 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So our improper fraction would be 9/4. As you get into the higher grades, you're actually going to be using mixed numbers and improper fractions. This is really important. All right, so now we're going to do some practice. I'm going to show you your assignment. So this is what your assignment looks like. Don't forget to put your name. And here we have just a reminder, a mixed number and improper fraction. So this is what a mixed number is. So it's 1 and 5/8 here. And if it was written as an improper fraction, it would be 13 parts out of 8 from one whole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So one whole has 8 parts because we're counting the 8 plus the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's why it's 13/8. So feel free to look up here when you're doing your assignment. It is a tip for you. All right, so this is also just an example of what it's going to look like. So here we have the 3 pies. If you were to write it as an improper fraction, it would be 8 parts out of 3. Because remember, when we look at the broken one, that tells us how many parts there are in one whole. So 1, 2, 3. So that's why we have a 3 on the bottom here. And then there are 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 7, 8. So 8/3. And if you were to write it as a mixed number, which I think is a lot easier, we have 1, 2 wholes and 2/3 here. All right, so number 1, write this pi as a mixed number. So you're going to be writing it like this. So you're going to start with how many wholes and how many parts. So you would write that here. This one, you're going to write it as a mixed number as well. How many wholes and how many parts? Number 3, write the pi as an improper fraction. So this one is about how many parts are there in one whole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 8, like that. Number 4, you're writing it as an improper fraction as well. So the number on the top will be bigger. All right, good luck. If you need some help, let me know.